Hello YouTube! We are on the Real Programming channel. This is our 42nd lesson. We continue the series of HTML, JavaScript lessons and the speech on the topics What Browser Security Policy, JavaScript. And for start, joke, XMLHttpRequests exposed part 2. This week's interview, Internet Explorer and did you say JSON? So let's start. At first, welcome back to the second part of the interview. XMLHttpRequest. I wanted to ask you about browser support. Are you available in only the never browser only? XMLHttpRequest. The guys don't call me old man for nothing. I've been supported by browsers since 2004. In internet years, I'm a senior citizen. At first, well, what about obsolescence? Do you worry about that? XMLHttpRequest. I'm someone who reinvents himself every decade or so. Right now, we're all working on the second version of XMLHttpRequest known as Level 2. In fact, most modern browsers already support Level 2. Impressive. What's it different with Level 2? Well, for one thing, support for more event types, so you can do things like track the progress of a request and write more elegant code, in my opinion. Speaking of browser support, okay, here it comes, wait for it. We've heard told the grapevine that you and Internet Explorer don't really get along. And there it is. If you want the answer to that, all you have to do is read every interview I've ever given. But apparently you missed it. Are you kidding me? This whole XMLHttpRequest business started with Internet Explorer. Yeah, but what about active XObject and XDomain request? Have you heard those names before? Those are my nicknames. That's what they call me at Microsoft. Okay, I agree it is a pain that we have different names for me, but they all do some things it easily handled with a little more code and in the returns of recent Microsoft browser version 9 and later, everything is good. If this is new to your readers, I'm happy to stay after the interview to make sure their code works on older version of Internet Explorer. That's very kind. We'll make sure that makes it into this chapter somewhere. Hey, I'm a nice guy. I would leave your readers hanging on this. We'll take your word for it. Another question, you mentioned JSON and then that you are a big fan of it. Do you worry all about, well, JSON-P? What me? Worry? Word on the street is a lot people are using in the place of you. Okay, sure, with JSON you can retrieve data, but it's just a clever back. Heck, I mean, think of the convoluted code you have to write, and what about security? Hey, I'm not overly technical, all I know is a lot of people say it gets them around problems you can't solve anyway, as that's all we have time for. Hey, well, at least you got the not every technical part right. Watch it, the XMLHttpRequest download property isn't supported by older version of browser, but there's an easy workaround. We've been using request onload to define a function that is called when the request finishes getting the data from the server. This feature of XMLHttpRequest level 2, think of this version 2, XMLHttpRequest level 2 is still pretty new, so many users may still be using browsers that don't support it. In particular, Internet Explorer 8 and lower and Opera 10 and lower support only XMLHttpRequest level 1. The good news is that the new features of XMLHttpRequest level 2 are enhancements, so you can continue to use only the features of version 1 in all browsers without any problems. It just means your code isn't quite as elegant. Here is the code to use XMLHttpRequest level 1. You will find exactly all the code and materials of this lesson under this video in description. Most of the code to use XMLHttp request level 1 is the same, but there is no request onload property in level 2, so you'll need to use the onReadyState change property instead, and then check the ready state to make sure the data has completed loading. If ready state is 4, you know it's done. You could also check for other ready state and status value if you want to check for various errors. Everything else is basically the same. And remember, we left you with a cliffhanger, a bug. Review what went wrong. We had all the code working just fine using our local server, but as soon as we moved to the live server on the web, it failed. What we expected, what we got. Here is what our page looks like when we run the code using our local server to serve the sales data from HTTP localhost jumble sales.json. Here is what our page looks like when we run the code using the live met jumble server, the sales data from jumble weekly smart.com. So what do we do? Why, let's do what we always do. Put the crew together for a quick cubicle conversation. We're sure that together all of us, including a few fictional characters, can figure it out. Frank, Jim, Joe, where are you? Oh, there are you on the next page. Ajay, the quality assurance guy, got pretty upset. And joke. Jim, Frank, Joe. Jim, do you have the correct URL? Frank, yep, and in fact it typed into the browser to make sure I see the sales data we're expecting and to work it fine. I don't get it. Joe, I speaked at the JavaScript console in Chrome and I see something about access control in the origins or domain. Frank, error? Okay, so browser security overview. What's browser security policy? Okay, it's embarrassing to hit this kind of snag. Just think of the position where you're putting your readers in. But Judy is right, the browser does enforce some security around your XMLHttp request, and that can cause some issues. So what is this policy? Well, it's a browser policy and it says you can't retrieve data from a domain that is different from the domain the page itself was served from. Say you're running the site for daddywarbucksbank.com and someone has hacked into your system and inserted a bit of JavaScript that takes the user's personal information and does all kinds of interesting things with it bit by communicating with the server HackersNeedMoreMoney. Come, sounds bad, right? Well, to stop that sort of things, browser prevent you from making XMLHttp requests to domain other than the original domain the page was served from. Let's take a look at what is okay and what isn't. Acceptable behavior for JavaScript code. First, the user thought the browser makes a request for an HTML page and, of course, any associated JavaScript and CSS. Your browser makes a request for a page from gooddomain.com. Server happily serves you your page. And 2. The page needs some data from gooddomain.com, so it makes XMLHttp request for the data. This request to get data from the gooddomain.com is succeed because the page and the data are the same domain. Server happily serves you your data. And acceptable behavior for JavaScript code. And so what are our position on this? About this, we will talk about this in the next lesson. And here is our 42 lesson about HTML and JavaScript is over. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, please put like, share with friends, comment, meditate, do exercise every evening, drink more water for the brain, and so on. Thank you. Bye.